Thank you for watching Dro TV. Welcome back to the CannaBiz show. Our guest today is Toni Conn from Green Bliss CFO Accounting and Tax Services. Toni, thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Yes, tax season's upon us, and I guess we should start with a little bit about yourself, your background, how you got into accounting and Green Bliss CFO.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been in the accounting industry for a while, and it does get boring after a while. And I had found the cannabis industry, cannabis in general, it checks a lot of boxes for me. I'm a big science nerd. I've gone through my own alternative health journey, and I mean, there's no reason for it to be on Schedule 1 whatsoever. And the complexity of 280E that brings to the accounting industry. There's so much help that is needed in this space. Plus, there's a lot of safety issues as well that we need to rectify, and I'm just here to help in whatever way I can.
Awesome. So I guess let's get into 280E. I guess I'll let you talk about its origin and the many nuances surrounding it.
Yeah, 280E, it's interesting how it came about. There was a court case of, I can't remember offhand which drug he was selling, but he ended up winning his court case and having all of his business deductions actually went through. And then the IRS realized, they're like, we don't want to do this ever again. So 280E came about to where if you're a trade or a business that's considered trafficking, then you're not able to take the normal and necessary deductions like any other business. That being said, under inventory rules through GAAP cost accounting, 471, 471.11, 471.3, you are able to take the inventory costs and move it into cost of goods sold when you do sell things, and that decreases your net income. So although it's not a way to have the normal and necessary deductions that most businesses usually have, it is a way for cannabis businesses to decrease their net income, which decreases their tax liability. That being said, the cost accounting that is associated with that is very complex, very high level. You need to pay attention to a lot more things compared to any other businesses. You need to be really on top of your game in a lot of different areas.
Okay, so I'm curious if this was designed specifically for trafficking of a scheduled substance. Does this include, I know for a while, like liquid cocaine was used in medical practices. So would this apply to a company that would handle something like that as well? Because I mean, as far as I know, like psilocybin and cannabis are like the two. So I mean, I don't think, my buddy after high school, when he was slinging whatever he was slinging, I'm pretty sure he wasn't, looking for deductions. So how did they just kind of like arbitrarily focus on like the substance? I guess you can answer my first question about like liquid cocaine. And so, I mean, are there other businesses as well?
It's 280E is specifically for Schedule 1 and Schedule 2. So interestingly enough, Imodium AD is from heroin. They isolated a part of heroin because based on studies, they realized that, hey, if you have heroin, you're not really going to the bathroom. So they isolated that part and put it into Imodium AD. So there are ways to get around the medical part of it if they isolate, whatever it is that they want to work with. That being said, the IRS looks at it as a whole. So for example, the Champs case, it depends on what your quantity of revenues are on whether it's a big deal or not. So Champs is one of the more popular tax cases because they started as a wellness company and they happened to also sell cannabis, but they had a separate entity, separate books, separate employees. The revenue from that was like 2% compared to everything else. So it was a lot smaller compared to the other wellness membership entity that they had going on. And the IRS was like, all right, everything checks out. We see right here which employees work for which entities, the buildings are separate, the books are separate, and it checked out. But most cannabis businesses aren't going to be that detailed in keeping everything separate. They're having a hard enough time just keeping up with cash flow with everything else that they
Sure.
need to pay for, because insurance is more expensive, banking is more expensive. You ideally should have more employees available to do monthly inventory counts. So your expense load and your labor load is going to be a lot higher.
Right. Now I know Imodium AD has been around longer than cannabis has been decriminalized. Or so was there something similar to 280E before?
Interesting with cannabis, well, hemp specifically, because hemp became legal before cannabis did. Cannabis still isn't federally legal. Even before hemp became illegal, originally it was mandated by the government for us to grow it.
Mhm.
And then trade expanded, and as far as like the war on drugs starting, like the paper companies came around, they didn't want to compete with hemp anymore. And then doctors, they started realizing that pharmaceuticals, they can make a lot more money with it. So they started working on having the war on drugs with cannabis. And it's really unfortunate because the side effects of pharmaceuticals versus cannabis, like the pros and cons, and you take you take the pill for the thing, and then you have to take another pill to go against the side effects. And it's just not to say that cannabis doesn't have side effects either, but
Sure.
considering the difference, it's such a shame, and there's no reason that cannabis should be on Schedule 1 at all.
Right. Is that what it's going to take to either allow businesses to benefit from expenses in a normal fashion, is to deschedule cannabis? Is that what you think?
Federally, yes. Stateside, it's different. States have their own rules depending on what's going on. But federally, I mean, eventually something's going to have to happen. We have how many states that are legal now? Like, well, the better question is like, how many states aren't legal yet? Like
Right.
10, maybe?
Right.
Like, and we don't have, and banking's still an issue. Like, it's completely nonsensical. There's no reason for that to still be a thing. And it's not just cannabis businesses that are impacted either. It's with how big of an economy driver this is becoming, you have employees of these cannabis businesses that can't get mortgages.
Right.
So it's not just a cannabis business problem. It's becoming a more systemic problem.
I'm curious as well. There's lots of talk of social equity, and I wonder how much this is brought into that conversation, because it's obviously not equal where um, we're a media company. We don't touch cannabis or traffic in cannabis in any way. So I guess we're like most other businesses, where we can enjoy some expenses and benefits. But, when we talk about social equity, and now here's the first Black dispensary owner, and they're still discriminated against in this way. Is that you're clearly more at the forefront and engaged in more of these conversations? Is that ever brought up in a social equity setting?
Yeah, there are different states have different what's the term I want? Programs is the better word that I want.
Okay.
So different states have different programs for social equity, and some of them focus on if you have a past criminal record, you're going to get dibs because they kind of want to make up for that. Others have residency requirements, others have other requirements. It just depends. It's different based on state. There are some that would prefer that licenses be at the beginning be specifically exclusively for social equity to kind of give them first dibs only, and then later others can come in. But there are different schools of thoughts on that.
Okay. Just in this conversation, it had me thinking about it, so I figured I'd ask. Let's talk about payment processing and safe banking. I'm into cryptocurrency, and even though it's not typically used as a currency, I was listening to you on a podcast, and you were talking about I forget the term you used, like secret ATM
Oh,
withdrawals or
cashless ATM.
cashless ATMs. Not to get too much into that and give anyone bad ideas, but are there, and I guess I don't know your thoughts on, I guess, taxation in general, but most of the accountants I deal with, they're there to help me lower my tax burden, right? So what I know in states where they can't sell weed, if you buy a shirt, you get weed with the shirt, right? That's like a way around the system. Are there any, I guess, little things like that a business can do to, I guess, aside from like a barter system, are there any ways kind of around this system the way it's designed right now?
Yeah, and you need to be real careful with doing that, what they call gifting,
Mm-hmm.
where you pay a little extra and then you get weed included. Like that's not a secret.
Right.
It's not a secret. I don't recommend it at all. And with the cashless ATM part, it's payment processing is complicated. There are payment processing companies that are backed by banks. Those are the ones that I recommended. I have heard of those that are also backed by a stable coin cryptocurrency as well, that I'm not so sure, just because of how the market is and the fluctuation. Like, they say it's stable, but I mean, if it were me personally, I wouldn't. You really need to ask the questions of, when my customer gets their bank statement or their credit card statement, like what is it going to say on there? And if it says ATM withdrawal, like, don't run away. It doesn't matter whether your dispensary name is on there or not. It's essentially fraud, and it is money laundering, because it's appearing as an ATM withdrawal when it's absolutely not. And businesses trying to get creative, I mean, to get around it. I mean, I just wouldn't. I mean, there are other ways that costs can be saved than doing things like that. So making sure that your cost accounting is correct. If you have people that work for you that are that are on the floor sometime and in the back room doing admin stuff other times, like, track their time, because we can allocate it correctly with cost accounting, and that can go into inventory, which then goes into cost of goods sold. There are ways that we can work with cost accounting to help you compliantly lower your tax burden.
Right. Yeah, I'm weary of stable coins, just because if a couple of smart guys can get together and through a computer cryptography, hey, I got these coins, and they're always going to be worth this much. And I mean, we can see very recently how stable coins and other cryptos in general can be manipulated, especially if, I mean, Bitcoin, we don't know who started it, and that's kind of a machine on its own, where a lot of the other cryptocurrencies are really, very smart guys who are coming up with a coin or a token, and I can just add tokens or remove tokens, and yeah, the volatility, even of a stable coin, they can still crash. So I think we still have a long way to go for any kind of adoption of cryptocurrency. And then, of course, the government, they're going to regulate it if, I mean, they say they're going to. So, maybe I know some ways around that, but that's a conversation for a different podcast. But
And the IRS is they're putting more and more energy towards paying attention to the cryptocurrency world. I mean, now on tax returns, you have to say, have you done a transaction whatsoever? Like, have you held it? Like, they want to know. And even if you don't check it, like, the technology that they're building to see and trace things is getting really, really in-depth and complex now. And it's another area that, I mean, you don't want to mess with, and you just, if you're coming into the cannabis industry looking to hide and get away with things, it's not the right industry for you.
Yeah, just stick to the black market, and if that's what you want to do. I guess let's stay on the IRS for a little bit. Supposedly 87,000 new agents. I don't know if that's people answering phones, if that's people doing clerical work, or if it's actual agents. I guess I don't know enough about that, but I know sometimes things are sold as bigger and better than they actually are. But with all the different businesses you deal with, do you see more audits, more, I guess, magnification of the cannabis industry than you would like a construction company or different industries?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the tax liability is so high compared to other businesses. It's not if you're going to be audited, it's when. And they are 3 to 4 years behind, which is another reason why you want to start now. And you can start now, and we can help you clean up previous things as best we can, but you want to make sure that starting now, it all, honestly, the best thing that businesses can do now, even if they're not in a place to be able to hire an accountant. Like, I'm not interested in putting myself out of work, but if just to give free advice right here, do physical inventory counts blind. So whoever's putting the numbers into metric, they don't also count your physical inventory. It's two different people. Do a physical inventory count every month and then adjust from there. And then your numbers will be more accurate. And then if you are able to do cost accounting, then that will be even more accurate. But it starts with the physical count, and most don't. Doing one a year is not enough. You need at least monthly. I know some who do daily because they want to see if anything's being stolen.
Sure. Okay. Now, with all the different businesses you do deal with in this space, what are some of the biggest things you hear that companies are facing, whether it's inflation, supply chain, the cost of goods, employee retention? What are you hearing from most businesses and business owners?
Yeah, cash flow right now is really tough. Depending on the state, the prices are low and the market's oversaturated, and it really depends on which state you're in. But regardless, being in the cannabis industry, cash flow is something that you really want to pay attention to. And the best way to do that is just to look at your processes and see where you can become more efficient. And then also, I mean, if you can, look at hiring experts to help with your accounting or your operations, or if you don't have anyone helping you with HR and employee retention, get some help with that too.
Hey everybody, I want to quickly mention Food Forest Abundance. Food Forest Abundance is a great way to create your own self-sustaining food forest and naturally occurring ecosystem that's commonly found in nature, but designed specifically for you. Through multiple layers of trees, shrubs, herbs, vines, rhizomes, mushrooms, and perennial vegetables, you can become your own supply chain without the typical maintenance required of a garden. From small spaces to large areas, both urban and suburban, Food Forest Abundance wants us to get back to our roots in nature by engaging with our food production in a meaningful way. For more information, click on the link in the description below and start your journey today. Okay, let's get back to today's episode.
Toni, do you use cannabis in your life? Are you a cannabis user?
I am not. With my own health journey, I've found out that I'm allergic to way too many things. I'm surprisingly allergic to chamomile. I don't know anyone else that's allergic to chamomile. It's really bizarre. So as far as bringing cannabis into my life, it's something that I am nervous to for the moment, just because of how much I'm allergic to everywhere else. That being said, I see the benefits of it in friends and family, and really encourage, if you are going to use, just pay attention to how it is working for you. And it's the peer pressure that I see in the culture in this industry on both sides, seeing, you're looked down on if you don't use, or if you do use, it needs to be of a certain level. Like, just do what works for you. It's okay. Like,
right.
The stigma on either side, it doesn't need to be there at all. Same thing with alcohol. Like, it's now getting to the point finally to where, like, if you don't drink alcohol, it's okay. But I mean, there was a time where it wasn't, and I feel like if you're going to be in the cannabis culture and support it, you should be able to not consume and not be looked down upon. Or if you do, that you just do what's comfortable for you and you're all right.
Right. I heard you talk about alternative medicine. Do you partake in any kind of plant medicine, and what type of alternative medicine do you do for your health?
Most of my alternative medicine is with functional medicine and supplements. So I've been on a gut health journey. So I used supplements to heal that and to maintain a good, healthy gut biome and things like that. And being a science nerd, like, I'm always looking at, what could potentially work and what doesn't. I just have to be careful based on what I'm allergic to and do a lot of research.
I go to a holistic nutritionist. We do the muscle response testing, and so I'm into standard process supplements and gut biome. Your gut, from your gut to your butt. That's where they say most of your problems are. So I'm always just curious what.
Yeah, your gut is your second brain, and it's so true. I mean, and healing in any capacity can be really tough. Because I mean, what got you to where you are, took, like, for me, it was like a decade of messing myself up, and then I was frustrated that I wasn't healing as quickly as I wanted. I'm like, well, it took you 10 years to get here. Like, it's not going to take you 2 months to get back. But yeah, functional medicine, alternative medicine, I'm all for it, because I went to my primary physician and they're like, oh, you have eczema, here, take the steroid cream. I'm like, I'm not doing this for the rest of my life.
Right. Yeah.
I want to find out what's causing it. Oh, it's what I'm eating. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. I think most of it comes down to our environment, what we put in our bodies. And a pill doesn't get to what caused this problem in the first place, which is why I think both of us are interested in alternative medicine, is because we've known for thousands of years, whether it's Eastern medicine or just plant medicine in general, that usually the solution is there somewhere. We just need somebody to help us figure it out. And we need to be listening to our bodies more. I mean, when we eat crap and we feel like crap, like, we did this. It's nothing that, like, oh, why do I feel so bad? I think we need to be more aware of what's going in our bodies and
yeah, absolutely.
What we're
One of my favorite nurses that I follow on Instagram, she recommends, if you use cannabis daily to about, trying to remember, she recommends that you take like 4 days off every once in a while, just to reset your tolerance levels and to reset your body. Yeah, you're going to have some withdrawals, but it just helps reset your system a little bit, because otherwise you're just going to have to consume more and more to get the effect that you're looking for.
4 days, huh? Okay. Longest I did was 2 weeks, only because I was in another country and I couldn't get any, but 4 days. Okay.
So if I'm remembering correctly, I'll see if I can find the reel and send it so that you can share it with everybody.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I think I had COVID over the summer. We were just like, haven't been this sick before. I don't need to stick something up my nose to confirm that I'm sick. But we're both pretty sure. My girl's a nurse. She does IV infusions, and we were surprised that it took this long for her to get sick, because she was sick first and then I got it. But nonetheless, I forgot what it was. Oh, I basically took over a week off, and the first puff back, it really didn't do much. So I was almost looking like, I think it's my system's getting back into it, where I had this high tolerance built up for so long. I would have thought, it was like my first time again, and it wasn't. So yeah, I think at least a few days is probably that sweet spot. So, all right, I've got one more question for you. You can choose not to answer this one. It's more of a philosophical question. Obviously, like your job, what you do. So, like, what are your thoughts on like black markets? And when I say black markets, I'm talking more of like, like a farmer's market where, there's, again, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to be on video saying this, but like, I'm a supporter of the black market. I don't have a medical card. Since I started smoking weed, it was illegal for the 20 plus years that I've been smoking weed. So it was always black market, right? There wasn't a dispensary, and I see more like community farmers markets and stuff like that, where transactions go on that are kind of outside the system. And where we are with our monetary system and our tax system, and they can essentially counterfeit money whenever they want. And now the price of food is so expensive, energy is so expensive. When you look back at history, the way that people have gotten around that is kind of like bleeding the system. Don't feed the beast. So I guess from a philosophical standpoint, like, what are your thoughts on like black market and operating outside of the system?
Philosophical question. That's tough, because my training as an enrolled agent, like, if you make money, you need to report it, like, regardless. Sure. And that includes, like, I had my own stint of like selling art at anime conventions, and a lot of that was cash. So you need to pay attention to it. And I think, as far as the system goes, is it perfect? No. What does it help a lot of people as far as where those tax dollars go? Yes. And you really just have to consider, philosophically, like, who are you harming by not contributing your taxes to your state and to the federal government? Now, everyone doesn't like the government, I understand, but there are things that they do help us with,
Okay. Cool. Toni, it's been great talking with you. I've learned so much from this episode. I'm excited to share this, because I think a lot of our audience will walk away with a better understanding of why they need to be financially prepared from an accounting standpoint in their business, as well as understand the many intricacies of 280E and some of the other things that are involved in having a business in the cannabis space. So please let everybody know where they can find more of you and Green Bliss CFO.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm most active on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn under Toni Conn, ToniConn. And then I'm also on Instagram at Green Bliss CFO, and my website is www.greenblisscfo.com.
Excellent. And if you like content like this, make sure you go down and smash the like button and share it with a friend, another business owner in the cannabis space. And make sure you are subscribed to Dro TV, because that's how we get great guests like Toni and give you great interviews and information like this. So Toni, thank you again for being an excellent guest on Dro TV. And that's it for today. Thank you for tuning in.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Tuning in to another episode on Dro TV. If you want to support us here at the channel, you can check out our brand new cannabis line of apparel. We have all high from all 50 states. I'm high from Florida, but you can go and be high from whatever state you are in white or black, a tank top, a hoodie, women's, men's. We've got all sizes for you. We do a lot of stuff for free here for you. That's how we like to do it. So if you can show us any kind of support, please head over to our link tree, click on our Etsy shop, and go get yourself some sweet gear. When you get it, tag us, post it. We want to see where you're high from, all 50 states as well as a few countries, because we are worldwide, baby. Peace and love.